like it's time to get out of the framework, but that does not mean that plotline is completely over. Hey guys, remember Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 4, Episode 20, Farewell Cruel, and I was definitely really looking forward to this episode, mainly because of what I knew this episode was going to be. As you guys know, at least from the end of the last episode, it seemed like this was going to be the episode where we did get out of the framework, and for the most part, that was the case. This was very much the send-off to the framework, but we're not completely done with it. We're going to get into why, but this was definitely one of the best episodes this season. I really did love this episode. I think it was definitely the best episode of this arc so far, of the framework arc, definitely. I really did love this episode. There was a lot of great stuff going on here, and I'm definitely interested in seeing where we're going to go, because at this point, I don't really know where we're headed, but at the same time, I'm very intrigued, so let's just get into this episode, because I definitely do want to get into it, and I love the way this episode starts off, because we actually flash back to 10 days ago. We see aboard the Zephyr, we see Simmons tells Yo-Yo not to wake them up no matter what, and she enters the framework, and once they're gone, Yo-Yo tells Piper that they wait, and we kind of get a little bit of the backstory of what Yo-Yo's been up to ever since, and time passes, and finally the Zephyr runs low on power, forcing them to touch down and refuel, and Piper points out that they can't trust S.H.I.E.L.D., obviously because they don't know who is an LMD or not. Remember, there are still LMDs on board, and Yo-Yo knows that they're lucky the government hasn't shot them out of the sky, and she insists they have to find something else to turn it off, and Piper suggests that they turn off the cloaking, and the other agents point out it's really the only thing keeping them safe, but Yo-Yo tells them they have to do it. I mean, they need to make sure that they're protected, and that's really the only thing they need to do. And apparently they're running out of time as well, so in the framework, we then see Ada. She dispatches units to clean up the streets after Coulson's broadcast, and at S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters, Trip arrives, and Daisy greets him. He has no idea who she is, and I love that he's just like, oh, hi, random person, I don't know. I thought that was really funny. They're really utilizing Trip very well as, like, the comedic relief here, but Gemma and Daisy then talk in private, and Simmons explains that Ada is building a living body for herself in the real world, and Daisy figures that they can use the backdoor coordinates that Radcliffe gave her to escape and stop Ada. So when Simmons suggests they rescue Fitz, Daisy warns her that they don't have enough time to rescue him and escape and stop Ada. So she agrees that it's really not Fitz's fault, but if they don't get Coulson out, then Ada will call all of them. And Daisy promises that they'll find a way to get Fitz out once everyone is safe. So Daisy finds Mack and Hope leaving. She tells Mack they have some intel that will let them take out Ada, and they need Mack. So when Mack hesitates, Hope points out that Daisy went to jail for what Mack did, and the girl says that Daisy is the biggest hero in S.H.I.E.L.D., and he has to say yes because of that. And as we know, Mack will do anything for Hope, and he does actually agree to it, and Daisy promises that he'll be exactly where he needs to be, and we see May. She's treating the injured when Coulson comes over. She warns that people have resisted Hydra before, and it really never seems to end well, but Coulson insists that it will be different because people are learning the truth, and he says it's just the tip of the iceberg, and tells May that the world is a simulation meant to keep them in prison, and May doesn't really believe him, but Coulson insists that something in the world just doesn't seem to feel right to him, and despite that, May says she's not following anyone blindly, and requires evidence. So Fitz goes to Radcliffe's cell, demands to know where Daisy is headed, and Radcliffe realizes that Fitz is afraid. Fitz then kicks him, and laughing, Radcliffe realizes that the others are fighting back soon, and they'll soon escape the framework. So Fitz points out that they will all die if they escape the framework, and says that there's a way to be reborn, and he explains that they built this machine in the real world that they can transfer human consciousness into an organic body, and Radcliffe realizes that Ada is using the Darkhold, and as we know, the Darkhold is one of the most powerful books out there, and if you use it, you have all the power in the world, and Fitz says that Radcliffe can have a new series of bodies in the real world, and I like that Fitz is kind of using Radcliffe. He's kind of using this blackmail, like, look, if you work on our side, I will give you a new body, you will live in the real world, but after a moment, Radcliffe tells Fitz that Daisy is looking for a way out, and I like that Radcliffe is staying loyal to Daisy, because he knows that he did go the other way, and it has, in fact, made things worse, and I like the way he is trying to right a lot of the wrongs by sticking on S.H.I.E.L.D's side. That's something that I really am loving that they do with Radcliffe here, and that's what a lot of this episode is. It's a lot of the characters trying to right the wrongs of what they did. Radcliffe specifically, I thought was one of the strongest arcs of this episode. So Simmons talks to May and says it's good to have her back, and we know these two were quite close in the previous arc, but she insists they're teammates in the real world, insists that the Fitz she knows is a kind, caring person, and when May mentions that Alistair is Fitz's father, Simmons realizes what Ada has changed. It's not what Ada did to him, this is what Ada has changed for Fitz, that his father is in fact influencing him, and she asks May if she can still access Hydra's personal files. So later, Simmons goes to Alistair's apartment. She draws a gun on him and says he's going to help her fix it, and Daisy is then reviewing Radcliffe's coordinates with Trip, who assures her that he can fly them there, and he wonders about the team that Daisy is assembling. And I love how he thinks that he dated everyone. Like, he asked if he dated Daisy, if he dated Simmons, if he dated May, and it really shows kind of how useless Trip really was, which is kind of true. I mean, when you really think about it, what did Trip continue to S.H.I.E.L.D? Well, I mean, he was definitely smart, and he had some nice one-liners in there, but he didn't really contribute much, and Daisy Mr. Trip was part of the team in the real world, and that's about it. He didn't really contribute anything, and Trip tells her that Simmons left base an hour ago, and again, I thought this was a good arc for Trip, just to show kind of how he didn't really do anything that's significant, and how the framework can be kind of his key to change that. So Simmons goes inside. Alistair insists that he's been a good father. He loved Fitz and raised him to be a great man, and everything he has is exactly what Fitz gave him. So from his perspective, that's exactly what he's done. You know, this is completely what Fitz wanted, and Simmons says that she can fix it and tells Alistair that Fitz is in danger from Ophelia, and Alistair figures that's something about the machine that Fitz is working on, and Simmons says that it's just going to kill everyone, which, yeah, it is. I mean, it's going to make sure they're all deleted, and she tells him to call Fitz and have him come there, and says she could never hurt Fitz, and after a moment, Alistair is about to make the call. Fitz is flying to the coordinates when Alistair's call comes in. Alistair tells his son that he only wanted the best for him and tells Fitz to do everything he says, and he tells Fitz that Simmons is there and attacks her. They struggle, and Alistair is about to choke Simmons out. The gun goes off, and Fitz hears the gunshot over the telephone, and she actually does succeed in killing Alistair, which I was shocked that this happened. Like, I was actually really shocked that Simmons actually killed Alistair, but if you really think about it, Alistair's not actually real. He's just a hologram within this world. She doesn't have too much to worry about because of that, but like I said, it was definitely very shocked that this actually did go well for Simmons. Like, she actually did get her shot in killing Alistair. So as Coulson and May head for the Quinnijet, May tells him that he's now the face of the revolution, you know, after everything he did, finally rising up against Hydra. He actually has, you know, become sort of like this big figure, and Coulson says he prefers to be a face in the shadows, and May doesn't really feel that way. Like, he is a public persona, which, as we know, Coulson is in the real world, and just as Daisy arrives, May tells him that Simmons went to Alistair, and Daisy says they can't leave without Simmons, but May figures that she'll just be fine. So Fitz and his soldiers then arrive at Alistair's body. They find his corpse, and he tells his men that they know where Simmons is going and to get back onto the Zephyr, and Radcliffe is then with them. Fitz asks him if Simmons loves him, and so you can tell that he is trying to get through to Fitz in this episode, but when Radcliffe says that it was an accident, Fitz forces him to look at Alistair's body and says that he intends to put a bullet in Simmons' skull. So again, it doesn't seem like Fitz is going to crack anytime soon. He's literally willing to kill Simmons at this point, and in the real world, Piper assures Yo-Yo that Mack is still alive, and we know obviously that's what Yo-Yo cares about the most, because her and Mack are in a relationship in the real world, and Russian fighter jets approach the Zephyr, and they realize the Superior sent them. They don't have power to control their guns, and if the team doesn't escape the framework soon, then they're all going to die. And in the framework, Simmons arrives at the Zephyr, tells Daisy she accidentally killed Alistair, and she figures that they have lost Fitz now, but Daisy says that they'll figure something out once they get back to the real world, and Daisy says it's really not a big deal because Alistair's not real, you know, he's just a hologram within the world, and I like that Daisy's telling her, look, everything's gonna be fine once we get to the real world. So Fitz's assistant, Melanie, tells Ada that Alistair was murdered. Ada tells Melanie to send word to have Fitz return to the Triskelion immediately, and when Fitz receives the orders, he orders the pilot to continue on course. Radcliffe realizes that they're heading to a steel mark, not a city park, and Fitz says that Ada has made a few modifications. So the S.H.I.E.L.D. Zephyr arrives the city, they land at the steel mill, and Daisy says goodbye to Trip, suggested he become the new Patriot, and I thought this was a good way to send off to Trip, because as we know, again, Trip didn't really accomplish anything. Maybe in this world he'll actually get to do something, he'll become the Patriot, and she hugs him and he tells Daisy to take care of herself, and it was a really nice scene. I mean, we know that these two were friends in real life, and I definitely like seeing that, but the team head through the mill. Daisy warns Simmons that something just doesn't feel right, and Coulson finds a location, a pit of molten steel. Simmons suggests that Ada build the place as a way to prevent people from passing through the back door, and she figures that there's no way out and Ada has won. There's no way there could possibly be a back door. They think Daisy's crazy at this point, but Melanie tells Ada that Fitz isn't returning as ordered. Ada tells her that Simmons is trying to reach Fitz and must find a way out, and she tells the doctor to proceed with a transfer of consciousness to the human body in the real world. And in the Superior's base, the machinery comes to life. They start creating Ada's organic body, Ophelia, that's who she's going to be as a human. So May demands proof, but Daisy says they have to trust her, and Mack figures that Daisy lied to him and has taken her away from his daughter, and Coulson still believes that Daisy's right. They need to find another way through the back door. I like that Coulson is still on Daisy's side here, and Daisy used her powers to start parting the molten steel, but the Hydra soldiers arrive, they open fire, and after blasting the Hydra soldiers with her powers, Daisy parts the molten steel. She reveals a portal, and Coulson and the others realize that it is in fact real. He tells May that they're going back to their world, and before May can stop him, Coulson goes to the edge. A Hydra soldier does shoot him, and May tells Daisy that Coulson isn't going to die on her watch. She goes out, she kills the Hydra soldier, and it's such a rewarding moment for May. We know how allied she's been to them, and how loyal she really has been to these soldiers. So to finally see her rise up against them and actually kill them, it really is a very satisfying arc for May. I really did like seeing that, and it really does show how far this character has come. And even in an alternate reality, it really does show how far she really has come. So she then helps Coulson up. He tells her to help him to the edge, and May does so, and Coulson has May to come with him. He admits that it's going to be a leap of faith. She says that it isn't easy for her. Coulson tells her to follow his lead and jumps into the portal as the framework starts to collapse, and he wakes up in the Superior's base, unfastens himself, and they're back. Yeah, they're finally back in the real world. He tells May that she can do it, and after a moment, May wakes up and she says that she followed him. He pulls her free, sets her down, and they see Ada hooked up in one of the pods. He gets a knife, and at this point, they're just willing to kill Ada because they know that she's the one who did all this, and as the framework starts to collapse, Mack realizes that Daisy has, in fact, been telling the truth, and Simmons heads for the portal, but Fitz confronts her, guns drawn. She insists that Ada took Fitz from her and she came there to rescue Fitz, but Fitz points out she killed his father. He's so fixated on that, like he's not willing to move on, and Simmons tells him that it was just an accident, she didn't mean to do it, and that Ada's just a robot who has manipulated the entire thing, and she begs Fitz to wake up, and Fitz orders her to her knees, and Simmons refuses. Fitz shoots her in the leg. She tells Fitz that she loves him, and Fitz says that she means nothing to him, and it's a very sad moment just seeing Fitz not really caring, and he tells Simmons to repeat the words, but luckily Radcliffe does come in, disarms him, says that the Darkhold corrupted what he wanted, and Radcliffe, actually, I was right, Radcliffe actually did kind of save the day here. He tosses Fitz into the portal, then tells Simmons that bringing Fitz there was the only way that he could save him. He figures that Fitz will be his old self, and tells Simmons that she should go. So Simmons jumps into his portal and wake up aboard the Zephyr in the real world, and I guess Radcliffe actually is dead, like he's not gonna come with them in the real world because he actually did die. But the Russian fighters open fire, they hit the Zephyr, and Daisy tells Mack that it's his turn. he wonders about Hope, and Simmons does wake up in the real world, which I really did like seeing. Just seeing everyone finally wake up was just really satisfying to watch, and he wonders about Hope, and Daisy admits that Hope doesn't exist in the real world because Ada fixed his biggest regret to keep him there. And again, it's a really big moment because Mack says that he's actually saying, even if it's not real, he doesn't care. If he gets to be with his daughter, he wants that chance. And Daisy tells him that Hope is just a computer code. She's not actually real, but he doesn't care because Hope is real to him. You know, that's the only person who laughs at his jokes and makes him feel full and makes him feel like he does have a purpose and he really does want to stay close to her. Remember, in the real world, he doesn't really have a relationship with Hope. And Daisy says she understands. However, she tells Mack that there are people who love him very much, and Mack tells her to tell them that they're sorry and wishes Daisy luck. So it seems that he's staying in the framework. We don't know what's actually going to come of that, but Daisy does wake up on the Zephyr. She tells Yo-Yo that Mack chose to stay in the framework, and just seeing Yo-Yo's reaction, you can tell that Yo-Yo is obviously very surprised. She doesn't really know how to react, but Fitz wakes up in the Superior base. He wonders what he did, and he insists that he did kill people. Like, he knows that he did kill people, and he sees Mace's body, tells Coulson that he ordered the airstrike that killed him. And then next room, we see Ophelia gasp her first breath, and she smiles. She is, in fact, human now, and Coulson tells Fitz that none of it was his fault, but Fitz insists that he is a bad person. Ada comes in, says she's happy to see Fitz. Coulson realizes that she isn't a robot anymore, and May prepares to shoot Ada. Ada has Fitz feel her skin, tells him that they can make the world whatever they want. She grabs Fitz, and they both disappear, and it seems like she has kind of gotten through to him, like maybe she is going to get him back into that evil persona, and they both disappear before May can get a clear shot, and that was obviously very surprising. But that's not the way the episode ends, because we see, still in the framework, Mack returns to the S.H.I.E.L.D. base. He finds Hope sleeping, and Trip is with her, and Mack tells him that they all made it through. Hope wakes up, Trip leaves father and daughter alone, and Mack tells Hope that the mission was more complicated than expected. The others aren't coming back. He assures his daughter that they're all good, and says they went to a place like Kansas and the Wizard of Oz. Well, the two of them are going to stay there, because everything he needs is there, though it is very unknown if he actually is going to be safe there, and that is the way this episode ends. Really great stuff overall, but let's just get in this episode and where we're going from here. So overall, guys, once again, this was another really incredible episode, but a lot of unexpected places that I thought we were going to go, because, look, I knew very well that not everyone was getting out of this framework. It just seemed entirely impossible for something like that to happen. But I thought it was going to happen forcefully, like someone was either going to die or someone was going to be forced to stay, i.e. Fitz, or if something was going to happen with, you know, they didn't get there in time. I just didn't think everyone was going to go. I did not think it was going to be by choice, because that's what happened here. Mack, in fact, is staying by choice. But is Mack really as safe as he thinks he is? I don't really know about that. I don't really know if this is really the safest decision for Mack. Like, I know what Mack is trying to do here. I get that obviously he wants to protect his daughter and he feels safe with her and he wants to make sure that she is still there. Even though he knows that she's not real, he's willing to take that chance and make sure that he does in fact have some sort of life with her, even though it's not actually real. He doesn't really care. I just don't really know where we're going to go from there, if he actually is going to survive, or if Mack possibly, this might be it, like, he might die within the framework, and if the show goes in that direction, I really would not be surprised if they did. Mack has always been a really great character. I've always really liked what we've gotten out of him, but I don't think Yo-Yo is just going to let him stay there. I think Yo-Yo is going to do what she can to try to get him out of there. Now, remember, he has no recollection of Yo-Yo in this world. They have no relationship, in the framework, so I don't really know what's going to happen there, if he's going to remember Yo-Yo, if she's going to find a way to get him out of there, but I don't think Mack is going to stay within the framework. I think either he's going to stay there, or he's either going to get out, or he's going to die, which we'll have to see the way that really does turn out, but I think that definitely is going to be very interesting. The more interesting part of it all is Fitz. That's the thing I'm definitely very interesting, because it seemed like Fitz was starting to, get back to his old self, and feeling very regretful what he was becoming, but now that Ada is officially Ophelia, and she is in fact a human, it seems that she was able to get Fitz back into that doctor persona, so I don't really know where we're going to go from there, if she's going to get him back in the framework and they're going to continue what they've been doing, or if he's going to get away from her and actually kill her. I just don't really know what's going to happen there. If Fitz is the villain for the rest of the season, I'm fine with that. I think he's been awesome. The actor who's playing him has been badass as that character. It's been a completely different kind of Fitz than we're used to, and I honestly really do want to see that character continue throughout the season because I've really liked what we've gotten of him. I just don't really know where we're going to go with that from here, but we'll have to see how that all really turns out. I think that definitely is going to be very interesting. What ends up happening with Fitz. But since we know the framework is still out there, I don't think this is the last we've seen of Radcliffe. I don't think this is the last that we've seen of Trip. I think we're going to see those characters again. Even Ward, I wouldn't be surprised if we did in fact see Ward again. I think definitely we're going to see these characters again before the season is over. I don't know how much we're going to see, but I think we're at least going to see them at least once more before the season is over. Radcliffe especially, you can tell that Radcliffe is very much trying to right a lot of the wrongs that he did and fix a lot of the damage that he did within the real world. I don't know if he's getting out of there. I think he is kind of just a computer program. I don't know what's going to happen with Radcliffe because, again, Ada did kill him, but he is supposedly asleep. I don't really know how things are working out with Radcliffe, but we'll have to see really what ends up happening there. If he does get out, I don't know. But I don't think this is the end of the framework, definitely, especially since Mack is still there. There's definitely still more story to tell in the framework, and I'm happy to see that. I've loved this storyline. I've loved what we gotten from all these characters. I like that most of them are out, though. I like that Daisy's out. The question now is, where do we really go from here? I mean, obviously, Ada's on the loose. Things are still not safe within S.H.I.E.L.D., as we heard from Yo-Yo and Piper. They can't really trust S.H.I.E.L.D. right now because there are still LMDs on board, so who knows really where that's going to go, if they're going to get inside the program and they're going to turn into humans, or what's really going to happen there. Are they going to contact the government? We know that Ghost Rider is coming back, so I think definitely Ghost Rider may be the key to saving them in some way. We don't know how that's all going to go, but I think definitely that's going to be very interesting. I definitely really did like what we got out of that. As far as Trip, I like what we got with Trip in this episode, that he really didn't accomplish much in S.H.I.E.L.D., and maybe he actually does want to do something bigger, like maybe become the Patriot, or just achieve something greater within this world, and I'm interested in seeing what's going to happen there. Mace as well, are we going to see Mace before the season ends? I don't really know. I think Mace's death is pretty much going to stick, like I said in my last review. I don't think Mace is coming back. I think that kind of was the last we saw of him. I doubt we're going to see him again. Maybe we'll see him again before the season is up, but I don't really know. Either way, guys, there are so many possibilities for where we can go from here, and I'm glad. I'm glad that we have a lot of possibilities. There are just a lot of places we can go. The fact that Simmons killed someone, yes, he was a computer program, and I think this is really going to have a lot to do with Fitz, definitely, especially if Ada can get, Ophelia, Ophelia, I guess I should call her, because as we know, Ada was her robot persona. She's not a robot anymore, so I'm going to refer to her as Ophelia now. If Ophelia can really get Fitz to remember what Simmons did, this could definitely have a big impact on their overall relationship. I think this is really going to change where we're going to go with that, but we'll have to see what ends up happening in terms of Fitz and Simmons. They've always been this great pair, and it seems like we finally got these two together, but I don't really know what's going to happen. Overall, guys, this was a very, very satisfying episode. I really like what we got within this episode. Like I said, I doubt we're done with the framework, but this is by far the best episode of this half of the season, and I'm definitely going to give Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 4, Episode 20, Farewell Cruel World, a 4.75 out of 5, or an A. This was very satisfying overall. There are a lot of places that this story can go from here in terms of the framework. Are we going to see the framework throughout more of the season? Is it going to go past the season? I've heard some people talk about that maybe we're going to see the framework past the season in little chunks here and there. What's going to come of Mack? Is Trip going to be there? Is Ward going to be there? We'll have to see really what's going to happen throughout the rest of the season. I really don't know where we're going to go, but that's something that's been great about this entire season, is how unpredictable everything has been. It's kind of been hard to predict where we're going to go within all this, and I'm glad that we don't really know where the rest of the season's going to go. It makes things a lot more less predictable as the season's gone on. And at this point, I'm just very interested in seeing how the rest of the stuff is going to play out, because this arc has been so interesting that I really don't want to predict, and I just really want to see how things play out from here on out. So, overall, guys, that's it for my review of this episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and we only have 2 episodes left. I can't believe it either, but there's only 2 episodes left this season. What an incredible season this has been. And what's interesting is that these next 2 episodes, this is going to be the first time where we don't have a season's finale that is actually 2 hours, which I think is actually great. I mean, the show has done a good job with that for the past 2 seasons, but after a while, it does kind of become annoying that you have 2 hours to watch and not an hour. So I'm glad that we do have only 2 separate episodes, and they're not 2 hours long. I don't think we need a 2-hour finale from this, but let me know what you guys thought of this episode. Loved your thoughts, and I absolutely loved everything about this episode. Really great stuff going on here, and I will see you guys in my next video, which will be for Arrow, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.